A U.S.-brokered ceasefire between Russia and Ukraine is due to expire today. And ahead of that deadline, both sides are accusing each other of breaching the 72-hour agreement. Ukrainian authorities say Russian drones, bombs and artillery struck civilian areas on the northeastern Kharkiv and southern Kherson regions. At least 2 people were killed and 7 others wounded. Similar truces have also failed to end the 4-year war. Reporter Emmanuelle Chaze joins us now live from Kharkiv in eastern Ukraine. Emmanuelle, just minutes before you and I started speaking, I understand that there were some explosions heard behind you, or some sirens. You sent us some video from earlier today, and I mean, you know better than anybody that the ceasefire is not really in effect, at least not where you are. What have you seen today?
Well, indeed, today there were a number of alerts. There were 4 alerts, and actually there's an error that just started a few moments ago, just before I joined you. And in a way, it's just representative of what this so-called ceasefire was for Ukrainians today. In fact, the bombings, the alerts haven't stopped at all. What we haven't seen during that 3 days so-called ceasefire are the waves of hundreds of drones launched nightly by Russia. There were also not dozens of missiles being thrown at the population, but during the day and during the night throughout the country, there have been attacks. Here in Kharkiv, you had this drone, which I heard this morning, looming over the city for 20 minutes before it just seems to have vanished or was neutralized by Ukrainian air defense. In the nearby settlement of Zolochiv, there's a building of culture as well as residential buildings that have been targeted every day during this so-called ceasefire. So really the explosions have continued throughout, and as you can hear just now, the sirens are ringing once again on Ukraine's second biggest city. I remind you, Kharkiv has 1.3 million inhabitants.
Very telling that our viewers can now hear those air raid sirens right behind you. And please, we're going to try to wrap this up very quickly so that you can be in a safe place. But you were talking to people this weekend during the ceasefire as Russians were celebrating Victory Day, victory over the Nazi Germany in the Second World War. Did the Ukrainian people you spoke to have any hope for 3 days without bombs or strikes, or that this could be extended?
Well, no, and in fact, just having air raid alerts, day in, day out, just taught them that even when there is a ceasefire, it's not going to last. And Volodymyr Zelensky tonight has said that Ukraine was expecting renewed attacks. And as he said before the ceasefire was announced, he said that Ukraine would respond in kind. And we've seen a lot of false equivalence saying that both sides are attacking one another. But in fact, Ukraine is still defending itself against the Russian aggression.
And tell us, Emmanuelle, as we reported earlier, Canada is now co-hosting a summit in Brussels to take stock of efforts to return Ukrainian children abducted during the war. Those abductions have been a big part of your reporting for a while now. What are you hearing about this?
Well, indeed, in fact, since 2022, Russia has forcibly deported over 20,500 children. And it is for those children that the Ukrainian government, along with its allies in Canada, is one of the first countries that joined Ukraine in this endeavor to bring back Ukrainian children. Ukrainian government is calling on its allies to actually impose more sanctions against Russia, against Russian individuals and organizations which help this deportation of Ukrainian children, because for those children it means being indoctrinated, being taught Russian instead of Ukrainian, and essentially forgetting about their own identity. I was talking to Deputy Foreign Minister Mariana Betsa just a few days ago when she said this is a human tragedy, and I was also talking to Canadian Ambassador ambassador to Ukraine, Natalia Smok, who was saying Canada was among the first country to help Ukraine in its bid to get those children back. In fact, today Canada has announced 23 new individuals sanctioned, as well as five organizations which have been helping the Russian government to deport those children. And that's what counts for Kyiv, is this support of allies in helping the country getting back those children.
Emmanuelle, thank you so much for your reporting. I know it's just before 9 in Ukraine right now, and we've been hearing those air raid sirens, so we want you to seek shelter and be safe. But thank you so much for making this time for us.
Thank you.
That was Emmanuelle Chaze reporting from Kharkiv in eastern Ukraine.